The red circle on this map shows the location of Loyalhanna Lake, a 400-acre man-made flood control reservoir located 30 miles east of downtown Pittsburgh in southwestern Pennsylvania. The headwaters of the lake, the end furthest from the dam, is near the town of New Alexandria. Here the dam is at the top northern edge of the map, with the Bush Recreation Area in the middle, and the Mannitto Access Area where the word launch is. In today's travels, I will follow the course of the squiggly red line southward, upstream, toward the bottom of the page, crossing under the U.S. Highway 22-119 bridge at New Alexandria to the first riffle that demarcates the end of Loyalhanna Creek and the beginning of Loyalhanna Lake. Here is a scene from a month and a half ago of me putting my kayak in the water at the Bush Recreation Area. I then paddled upstream to the Mannitto Access Area, a one-way distance of about 3.5 miles, then returned to my car. Here is what the Bush launch area looked like today, with the lake being just about at the same level, 923 feet on the official gauge. My goal for today was to paddle the upper portion of the lake, the remaining 3 miles, starting from where I previously turned around at Mannitto, then continuing upstream and south to New Alexandria before returning to Mannitto. Here you can see me arriving at Mannitto and having lunch on that trip in June. My goal for today was to return to this familiar place, then paddle the upper portion of the lake, the remaining 3 miles, continuing upstream and south to New Alexandria before returning to Mannitto. I intended to take some video of my car arriving at the Mannitto boat launch area, so I stopped at the top of the entrance road to set things up. I turned around in the driver's seat to grab my camera bag, but found it was not there. A gigantic wave of disappointment washed over me as I realized I had left the carefully prepared backpack full of cameras, clamps, batteries, and whatnot on the desk in my office back home. My plan to make a video of today's trip evaporated like the early morning mists on a secluded pond. Or did it? I still had one camera with me, and that was in my cell telephone. I quickly decided that I would make only a brief video of still photographs with an overdubbed narration, much like an old-fashioned slideshow, and I began making snapshots of me preparing to get the kayak in the water. In the book The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the main character found out he had wasted precious time caring for his rose. I too decided that I had been wasting too much time tending to my cameras, so took today's mistake as a blessing instead of a curse. Although it was only a short distance from the trailer to the water, I took the opportunity to use a dolly to haul the fully loaded boat to the landing. Although I had doubts about how I was going to get the kayak down that flight of steps, gravity was there to help me, and things went without incident. Just before getting into the boat and starting my journey, what should have been blatantly obvious to me earlier was that in addition to still photographs, I could also take motion footage with the cell phone. So I stood on the shore and made a long video of the water slowly flowing past and thought it would make a good background for the opening title of my YouTube video. What then became even more flagrantly obvious was that I could use the cell phone to record video of the entire day. Although not as Hollywood grand as I had planned, it would give me an opportunity to rein in my enthusiasm for grandstanding with special effects utilizing multiple cameras, and show what could be done with one simple camera, and expounding upon the virtues of being in the moment and not worrying about capturing the experience with photography. The result is today's video, a minimalist story of getting back to the basics and paddling in the moment. I am as guilty as anybody else for taking along way too much gear. I'm a techno freak, and I love gear. But as I discovered on this day, when you leave most of it at home, you can just concentrate on kayaking in the moment instead of trying to decide where to aim your cameras and which camera to use. I'm tempted to make recording my trip way too complicated, and am disappointed whenever me or my equipment fails to capture a scene. A camera battery goes dead in the middle of the day, or my camera is not pointed at or turned on when the bald eagle flies overhead, or the fish jumps out of the water in front of the boat. Using only one handheld camera proved to me that a single and simple camera is more than enough to capture what I want and truly need. Like the little prince wanting to tame the fox, I want to tame my camera and make it do my bidding. When you leave that equipment and your expectations behind, it frees you to simply sit in your boat and enjoy the unique environment you have immersed yourself in. After today's trip, I will be looking more carefully at how much and what gear I will take along with me, realizing that excess camera and boating equipment is actually making me frustrated, is taking away from my experience, causing me to not see or notice that fish or bird, the sun reflected on the water, or the gentle bobbing of my boat in the waves, me simply having too much camera junk to attend to. You can arrive at the point of worrying more about the gear than worrying about having a wonderful and meaningful time on the water. As you can see in this video, often less is more. In the future, I need to strike a balance between capturing those moments and experiencing them, and at the end of the day being 100% happy with both myself and the images I capture. I need to spend less time thinking about what camera and boating gear to take and how I will use it, where if you have a simple setup, all you are doing is thinking about getting the most out of your time on the water. And in doing so, I will have a better and more rewarding experience. I had nothing to hold the cell phone to take video but my hands. No clamps, no mounts, no brackets. All of those kind of things were left back home. Holding the cell phone in one hand, I couldn't paddle with the other, so absent from this video is the splish-splash sound of me paddling. Also notice how fast and far my Eddyline Sitka kayak is able to glide along the water. This is the best you get of my smiling face, since I have no other way to hold the camera. Soon I began to hear the sounds of trucks and cars traveling on U.S. Route 22-119 as they crossed the Loyalhanna on a nondescript bridge. I've driven over this bridge more than 100 times on my way to college at Indiana University of Pennsylvania and to other destinations, getting a 2-second glimpse of the stream 50 feet below the concrete guardrails as I sped past. I often wondered if I would ever pass under that bridge in a boat, and today was that day. Here is the New Alexandria launch ramp at the end of West Main Street. This is the first riffle that you encounter going upstream from the lake. It is 1 mile above the highway bridge, where a small creek enters from the left. I consider this rocky barrier to be the headwater of the Loyalhanna Reservoir, the flow now being too shallow for me to paddle any further upstream, at least for today. I could portage and carry the kayak the few dozen yards of the riffle, then continue on upstream in the next pool of water, but there are a number of riffles in a short distance here. And besides, it was time to turn around and head back home. Now the lake would extend a bit further upstream at higher water levels, and it's difficult to comprehend that this relatively small trickle of water has the ability to become a raging torrent in a heavy rain, especially above the town of Ligonier and in the Loyalhanna Gorge. I took the opportunity to stop at the new Alexandria Access Area on the way back, stretching my legs and getting a bite to eat. I have christened my boat Spokój, the word in my native Polish ancestral language that translates as calm, peace, tranquility, quiet, and serenity. Despite the traffic noise from the highway above, Spokój is what I found on this day. I then passed under this particular highway bridge for only the second time in my life, then continued further on, returning to the serenity of nature, with only the sound of my paddle in the water to break the quiet calm of the day. A few years ago, I digitized all the snapshots I had of the many outdoor trips I took with my friends during my college days. This was in the early 1970s, where the only option was film photography. It is now commonplace and almost expected that you will extensively and exhaustingly document every event you experience. I filmed things because I wanted to hold on to dear, exclusive, and elusive experiences, and I didn't want to lose the details of those trips that fade away with time. And when I began kayaking a little over a year ago, I began to record every moment of each trip, from leaving the house until I returned, getting the boat ready, putting in the water, each sight and vista, animal, arriving at the launch site, packing up, and driving home. Although the photos and videos rekindle old memories, feelings, and emotions, sometimes I wonder if I'm actually remembering the photos and videos instead of the actual moments and events. One day, I will no longer be able to do the things and go to the places that are portrayed in the photos and videos I have taken. It is then I will be happy that I have those photos and videos along with the fading memories. I do have some small regret that I may not have paid enough attention during those ephemeral moments in the woods, along the trail, or on the water, thinking rather of how I would attempt to preserve those moments on film or electronically. I occasionally wish that I had been more present, enjoying and taking in the sights, sounds, smells, and feelings of being in an extraordinary place, doing extraordinary things, sometimes with extraordinary people. Why didn't I pause, take a breath, and appreciate those moments more fully while they were happening? I was aware that those times would swiftly pass, and attempted to drink in all that I could of those precious moments. I believe that photography was not a hindrance, but rather helped me discover and appreciate the fine details of the natural environment I was experiencing, even long after their occurrence. Now, there is such a thing as oversharing one's life, which is especially easy to do on social media these days. But I constantly remind myself of how quickly these increasingly precious moments are passing. I simply need to find a happy medium between experiencing and preserving those special moments, allowing some to occur unrecorded, but hopefully not forgotten. It almost seems better having too few photos than to be overwhelmed by several hundred digital images or hours of video. After today's experience, I believe that I will now more often take the opportunity to refrain from photographing my adventures, preferring instead to preserve those moments on the emulsion of memory. Like the little prince, I too finally realize that the things in this world that are the most beautiful are felt in the heart and not with an image captured by a camera.